I found that, so obviously, like as women, we know what like sexism and misogyny looks like, right? We've experienced it and whatnot. And I found that I had a very particular idea of what those things look like until I became a professional woman.
Okay.
And I found how it gets much worse and salient the older you get and the more professional you get. So I found that as my, my professional life was booming, so to speak, right? As I was growing, my profile was rising. I was, doing really well at work. I found that whether it was in the office or outside of the office, my colleagues, peers, male colleagues and peers, how those things started to change. And I'm like, oh, what misogyny often looks like, especially for a professional woman, is not going to be always like things like sexual harassment or little snide comments or what. It's how sometimes your access starts being made less and less and less because of how you are viewed as a threat, or you're viewed as someone who potentially is not someone worth investing in, or what have you, because of the basis of like, she's a woman, she might get married, she might get pregnant. Like we know that's a huge thing in corporate America, right? American life, like the idea that women, are potentially, these vessels are going to carry babies is considered a liability for corporate America, right? Yeah. And so, you start seeing how salient that is, and also like how male peers in your industry, in my industry, start talking to me now versus how those same individuals spoke to me 4 or 5 years ago, right? And so I think that's been one massive professional hurdle, is kind of that realization of, oh, this is what, when we talk about misogyny or glass ceiling, this is what it actually looks like. And you can't always point it out. Right. You can't say this is a specific example. It's something that you consistently start feeling because it's so radically different from everything you'd experienced before. Yep. Right. So that's been one hurdle. I think another hurdle is like, I am very publicly outspoken on a lot of issues, especially political issues. And I feel like as a journalist, and it's, like I speak very openly about issues of, like, for instance, Palestine. And I know that closes doors for me because I've been told that explicitly. Yeah. So those are like the two major hurdles when it comes to
Yeah, that's really interesting. And you see that in tech as well, right? And so I experience it, my female peers experience it. I've been told to my face to like not take on projects, but because, hey, like, you're going to be married with kids one day, and why would you want to put that much stress on yourself? Like, to my face, by someone who was responsible for my promotion and my salary. He was like the mentor, like my mentor on my team, right? And this person was responsible for helping me grow into like my next role, right? And and it was so interesting because the way that he approached it was like, I'm here for you, but let me give you some advice. Like, this advice is going to be better for you, because why would you put so much work into this if you're just going to get married and be pregnant in like, a year? Like, just don't go for this project, right? And I think it's fascinating. Like, you're right. It's not like that sexual harassment or whatever, that there's a lot of that too. But it's all of these subtle things. And you're just kind of standing there listening to these comments, or like just confused about why you didn't get that promotion, or why you didn't get that raise, and wondering what you did wrong. And, a lot of times, like, in QCI, well, I don't know if you guys have QCI media, but like your quarterly reviews or whatever, they're going to interview everyone on the team and be like, is this person qualified for the next role up? But there's always that discrepancy of everyone says good things about you, but then you don't get the promotion. And you're just like, I don't understand. Like, I don't get why.
When it comes to women, we're always positioned to fight one another. Yes. Like, okay, there are only a few spots. There can only be a few top dogs, so to speak. And so you don't make allies with other women, right? Like that's what unfortunately sometimes ends up happening. And even if you might be making, everyone's still afraid for their own job because we as women oftentimes know how precarious our position can be because, you know, and especially the higher up we go, the idea of job security becomes like something almost foreign to us at some point because we experience, I mean, like you said, that was very explicitly where you're being told like, hey, you know, like maybe don't consider this like, that's crazy to me, you know? So, I mean, there's also like the exam, thinks panties.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
So that, right. Like that was, I think, a really interesting example of like, here's a woman run company, right? Female CEO, women all across the board, et cetera. And they got hit with a massive sexual harassment scandal. And the people were talking about the same toxic work culture. And it's because it's not simply a case of like, we just replace men with women and things are better. It's that there is a culture that exists within corporate work that like is not conducive to women's growth and material growth or professional growth or anything of that sort. Yes, we are pitted against one another, but I do believe that like if we create like an alliance, right? Like there's a very obvious alliance between us and we can be pulling each other up as well, supporting one another in meetings. We, you know, at our company, we started doing those type of things where, you know, simple things like during a meeting, if a woman was interrupted, right, other women would chime in and be like, oh, wait, she's not done speaking yet, right? Just small things that really can actually, they don't overhaul the culture, but what they do is they at least let it be known that you're not going to take certain things like, you know, for granted. I feel weird as someone who's part of the diaspora dictating like what to do better. You know what I mean? So it's like that was a little weird for me. So I'm like, I'm not going to tell obviously Pakistanis like, here's what you need to do. But in terms of like, as yes, someone who works in the media, like these are things I recognize and what I see there. And it's not unique to Pakistan. You see it also in India. You see it in other South Asian countries as well. But I feel like that's something as Pakistanis in the diaspora, we need to be aware that even our media back home and what we consume here from back home is only giving us a very, very particular perspective of like what Pakistan itself is all about.
So to round it out, I just want to ask about Shaam ki chai traditions at your home and how you grew up having Shaam ki chai. What did you guys drink? What did you eat? What did you talk about? All the things.
For me, the best chai I've ever had is always like the chai, like traditions were always in Pakistan. It was just like someone would come home with like all of a sudden like, oh, I got pastries, I got jalebis, I got, samosas, and you're just like, okay, like we got dinner in 2 hours. It's all good. We're just going to eat this now. Don't eat dinner.
That's awesome. That's
so
awesome.
Wait, what about yours? What's your Shaam ki chai?
Oh, it's, what? The memories are primarily around Shaam ki chai in Pakistan. Like my mamus would come home from work, everyone, and this would be primarily when we visited in the summer. And so we spent a great amount of our summers in Pakistan, right? And so even before schools closed, my parents were like, let's go. And they'd be like, you're in grade school. You can miss like half of September. It's fine. We'll come back late, right? And so it would be right around that Sham time. Everyone's back from work. There would just be a spread of food, and the chai ki trolley, and all the kids would be sitting around the table on the floor. All the adults would be on the couches. There would be some show on. For the longest time, it was online. Amar Leaka, it's Alim online. Then some drama or some news thing. If it's cricket season, then it's cricket for sure. And then we're all just like, it's that one time where everyone gets together and has just like, it's family time, right? Which is interesting. Normally you think of, it's dinner or it's lunch or it's breakfast, but everyone has their own schedules. But everyone knows Shaam ki chai, asar se maghrib tak, everybody needs to be in this area. And just like chai papas, prince ke cookies. My nani has this drawer of treats. And she has like the chabi for it too. And so I remember like as a kid going up to her and be like, Bibi Jan chabi de de. And she'd be like, acha jao, go get your whatever treat you want and stuff. And so it was just good family time. And it was beautiful because our lawn mein phir uske baad, my nana now he would do the maghrib ki azan. Jab azan hoti thi, he would go and lead prayer there, right? And so then everyone would kind of congregate there and pray namaz, and then you're off on your way and doing homework and studying for tests and doing, whatever it is you need to do. But it just like, it was just such a beautiful time together as a family,
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it. It's like when I think about Shaam ki chai, it's like it is exactly. It's like that is when the entire family gets together. Like, because you're right, everyone else has their own schedule. Maybe someone will make it for dinner or not. Like they're like, oh, I'm going out for dinner with friends. But for chai, everyone's there. Actually, really quickly, I remember one of my most vivid memories of Shaam ki chai was in 1999 in Pakistan. Where we were, it was the same, what you described, right? It was in my dadi's room. She had like a big room in the house. And everyone went into the room. That's where the chai would have to happen. It happened where she was. And then exactly little chai trolley came in, all the kids on the floor, right? And all the adults on the same exact thing, couches in her room. She was on the bed. And I just remember though, this was during the Kargil War. Oh. And so we're all like, so those nights, Shaam ki chai was long and sad. And like, I just remember like as a kid, I was like, I didn't really understand war entirely. I just remember sitting there watching like, what was it? Like, I can't remember which news station, maybe PTV, I don't remember, it was 1999, it's been a long time. But like, it would just every night, just watching what was happening with the war while having chai and all that. Like, that is like one of my most vivid memories is watching the war play out. From the Pakistani side every single night while we were having chai.
Oh, wow. I mean, that must have been an incredible memory. I mean, sad, but also like.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it's my first memory of witnessing a war.
Whoa. Yeah, that's intense.
From being in a country at war, so to speak, right? Because at that point, I grew up in the US and the United States had been at war, been at war, but it was always quote unquote like abroad, right? And this was right at the border. So it was just like, oh my God. Anyways, that's like, I always think about that.
The wars in the United States are never actually in the United States, right? Like they're always somewhere else.
Exactly. And everyone was scared, right? Because here you had, and it's 1999, you got two nuclear powers. Pakistan had just announced a year or 2 years earlier that it had, the nuclear capabilities. So it was like, everyone was on edge. So Shaam ki chai, I remember during that period was like, no one skimped on the pastries or anything, but everyone ate silently. Right. And drank the chai silently because we were just watching like what's going to happen next.
Yeah, it must have been stressful. Right? Well, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing your journey and just spending this time with me and us and talking through your life in media. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was a great conversation.
Thank you. And thanks guys for watching. It was great to have you guys here and I will be back with another episode. Take care.